not just that one little piece. Because if you're just shifting dollars, and the example I gave was like just sending people over, I mean, what would be cost savings for the property? Great, we're going to take Shelley and 3 of her staff, and we're going to make them go work over here. Okay, sure, that's great for the property who may have just realized, you know, $200,000 or $500,000, whatever Shelley makes. It's big money up there. And that happens. I mean, sometimes you have to do some of those things, but it's really not adding any value. All you're doing is shifting the risk from one bucket inside this chain to the other. And so, as a business, as an entrepreneur, as part of this massive global media company, you know, that's the sweet spot, which is looking for opportunities, looking for businesses, looking for partnerships where that can happen. Because then that's a pretty good story to tell to the client as well, more than, or I just write you the big massive check, which that's normally how it wins the day. And I think the verdict is out. I mean, I think there's a question, and we'll certainly talk about what's next. But this is the way I guess we look at the businesses, and it doesn't matter what it is how do you add value to the whole enterprise? Not just one individual piece, but how do you do it to the whole enterprise? Craig's going to pull up just surrounding my glasses. Can I see? A little bit of an internal document here, but it's not all this is readily available, so there's nothing proprietary. But 6, you know, the BCS conferences, you're all well familiar. Everybody highlighted, I showed this 2 years ago, all the ones in light blue had, and I just call them national partners. I mean, there's really 5 national partners in our space today. Ourselves, ISP, Learfield, IMG, formerly Host, and Nelligan. Those are the ones that have more than one. My second qualification, what I call local single point rights holders, the Capital Group down in NC State, been doing it forever, down in Raleigh. Ole Miss has the name just left me, if anyone knows it, but who's Ole Miss? TelSouth, you know, is a local group down there. Get back to tradition. You know, I love, they're always on the top of my biz dev list all the time, even though I have no opportunity to probably flip that one because of the traditional side, but great property. Ole Miss would fit into our biz dev criteria, Hawaii and Utah and the rest of them. But you can see the activity, what's in dark blue is the activity since I stood up here 2 years ago. So, you know, you can see Dukes, Mississippi States, the ones that have all changed over. Jason, I missed anything? I see my ISP boys staring. All right.
Looks about right.
All right. Yeah, don't think I don't have one that has them coded, but I was no way going to come on here and show that. No. Yeah. You know, but that's in 2 years. You know, Jim asked me if I could go back 10 years and wouldn't it be neat to look and see what it looked like when you just got in here? And I don't have that much time to do that, but speculatively, if you did this chart 10 years ago, I mean, right now, 63 out of 66 BCS schools, 95% are working with an outsourced partner. And that's really everyone's got some type of outsourced partner. I mean, someone's got a radio station. It's not like they're doing it, quote, in-house. But I guess I'm just saying it's really they're putting it all out, or they're working with one of the 5 that does this all in some capacity. So, you know, the holdouts, let me stay over there. You know, 3 holdouts, Michigan State, Illinois, you know, and the Trojans. All pretty big schools, and I'm sure, you know, my brethren corporately at ISP and Learfield are all, you know, been making the same thing, banging their head against the wall, and probably said, you know what, when they're ready, or somebody bring their checkbook and we'll talk. But it's pretty full. And so, yeah, this industry as a complete multimedia rights in the traditional sense of what I showed you is probably, you know, last 10 years really where it went from, I don't know, again, I'd probably speculate 20%, 25, 30% maybe, back to where, you know, the Learfields were down in Missouri doing ag networks. Our guys were running around the country doing stadiums. Actually, Debbie, you know, we worked at Ohio State. Premier Sports did the the consulting, sold all the advertising, the Schottenstein Center, did all the consulting, sold all the advertising center in the Horseshoe. That was the business. And it was a great business. Why? Because you came in, you designed, I wasn't around then, so I can throw stones or at least wish for an easier time. You designed it, you sold it, you walked around town to the bank, to the energy company, to the pouring rights partner, and you said, here it is. It's a 10-year deal, whatever the number is, 5% bump, here are your signs, here's your tickets, and then you got out of town. And you went and did another one, and another one, and another one, and there's nobody got left behind. There weren't, 18 people at Georgia or 16 people at LSU. You weren't producing radio networks and prints. I mean, it was a simple, clean business. And that's really how our little group grew up in this space. I mentioned Learfield, was Ag Networks in Missouri. They came at it from the radio side. Host years ago came at it from the print side and probably entered the multimedia a little bit quicker. Once how long have you guys been around? 12 years. So, by the time they got it figured out, a little bit quicker, it wasn't a standing business. It was more of a multimedia business when ISP got in it. But, in the last 10 years, this is the landscape. Go to the right. You look at the rest of the Division 1A football playing schools. Conference USA has been full for a while, and I may have missed a couple here in the MAC. The WAC, the last holdout, is our friends over in Hawaii. So even if I'm missing a couple here, we're talking about close to 90% of the 1A, Division 1A football playing schools have a multimedia rights partner. Take a peek a little bit over to the right. There's been activity. We've actually, in our local, I'm from Newport News area, Hampton Roads, Norfolk, Old Dominion. We played in this space a little bit. There's been, some activity. UMass has taken a look. And I think this is the area, though, when further you go, and this is no disrespect to any of these schools at all, but it goes back to that property valuation, trying to figure, okay, what's this thing really worth? And what's the best model that you can actually monetize it? Because it might not be a good fit for any outsourced agency. There might be a better model, and I'm sure there are other companies, so I don't want to, if anyone knows of anybody else that would call themselves in this, there are lots of other smaller companies I know out there that are working with some of these institutions. They may have more than one. But this has pretty much been the playing field since I was last here 2 years ago. A little bit of activity, in the BCS, a little bit of activity in the rest of the non-BCS football playing schools, and some here. I think a combination of that has been economy and capital and everything else, which is putting a lot of pressure on access to capital, which has sort of slowed down some of these. But the reality of it is just there's not a lot left. There's sort of this land rush, if you would, over the course of the last 10 years, and most of these deals, as you well know, are long-term. So that's the box that we're playing in today. It's what it looked like 2 years ago and where it sits today.